English Humour. A walk along the waysides of English language humour. Part 28. One-liners. And so we reach the final segment, and I'm going to sign off with a few of my favourite lines expressed succinctly, often referred to as one-liners, though there might be two or three. But these days on stage the traditional joke is now scarce. We don't get many build-up punchline structures compared with yesteryear. Lee Mack has a good opener that plays with this idea. Why did the chicken cross the road? He asks the audience, then answers himself. Well, you would too, if your house was destroyed and your family was homeless and you had to get up all your possessions and... Oh, I'm sorry. Why did the Chechen cross the road? And then top it with, it's all right, I know what I'm doing. I thought that was a good opener. Here's the tip they give you if you want to be a stand-up comedian. I used to do this stand-up lark. I still do if the money's right. But here's the tip. You start with your best gag, you end with your second best gag, and you put your third best gag second. Here are some of my favourite short jokes from some of my favourite short and tall comedians that now, after 28 segments, plus appendices of a brief history of English humour, we can dissect and suck all the juice out of. Here's Rodney Dangerfield. A girl phoned me the other day and said, "Come on over, there's nobody home." I went over, nobody was home. Oh, that's a nice piece of nonsense and nothing more. If you want even more surreal nonsense, you have to go to Stephen Wright. Check out these strange thoughts. For my birthday, I got a humidifier and a dehumidifier. I put them in the same room and let them fight it out. George is a radio announcer. When he walks under a bridge, you can't hear him talk. Very much in the line of Stephen Wright and Steve Martin, you get Mitch Hedberg. Mitch killed himself with an overdose of coke and heroin in 2005, still very young. Maybe he wasn't cut out for comedy. He didn't like being on stage. His head would be bowed, his long hair in front of him, and he almost always wore sunglasses. But something drove him on to a career that took him to Just for Laughs and Letterman.
I bought a donut and they gave me a receipt for the donut. I don't need a receipt for a donut. I'll just give you the money. You give me the donut. And the transaction. We don't need to bring ink and paper into this. I just cannot imagine a scenario where I'd have to prove that I bought a donut. Some skeptical friend, don't even act like I didn't get that donut. I got the documentation right here.
With Mitch, it's the delivery. Very hangdog, but with a slacker American accent, which I can't imitate, but let's try these. I used to do drugs. I still do, but I used to too. That's much better in Mitch's drawl, but makes a nice point about the use of used to. Here's another. My friend asked me if I wanted a frozen banana, but I said no, but I want a regular banana later, so yeah. My belt holds up my pants, and my pants have belt loops that hold up the belt. What the fuck's really going on down there? Who's the real hero? And there's Mitch giving us a nice example of a tagline. Give us the punchline, and then give us a little bit extra after. Let's go to Jimmy Carr now. I did a gig in the US once for the homeless. I said it's nice to see so many bums on seats. Has to be in America because we don't call homeless people bums. But Jimmy Carr is one of quite a few comedians who like to see what you can get away with. The king of that was Jerry Sadowitz. Influenced somewhat by the Derek and Clive recordings, he kind of set out to be a little bit rough. His grand opener, at the height of the free Nelson Mandela craze, was to walk on stage and brashly announce, "Nelson Mandela, what a I saw him once and he said that he thought he would have got away with it more if he'd done a little cute smile at the end of his disgusting jokes, as Frank Skinner does. There was also Incognito. He wasn't nice. That was his catchphrase. I'm not nice. What, again, a tremendous opener. Walks on, bangs a nail into the wall, then hangs his hat on it. Then he'll turn to the audience and say, this lets you know two things about me. Firstly, I don't really give a shit. Secondly, I've got a hammer. The name Incognito is wordplay, obviously. His real name was Paul John Barbieri, and he was on the list of the died on stage comedians, if you remember. And I know I've missed a lot of things out. Somebody's favourite will not be in the 28 segments, but setting oneself the task of the whole of humour in English in under 6 hours was always quite a stiff challenge. Still, I can't leave out the comedian that gave the best live show I've ever seen. In between his surreal ballet and his long and rambling stories, Emo Phillips managed to pile on laugh after laugh after laugh, but very often of a black hue.
Probably the toughest time in anyone's life is when you have to murder a loved one because they're the devil. I'm excited about Halley's Comet, or some pronounce it comet. Oh, still a little bit out of breath. I was running to get here and had a very bad asthmatic attack. These 3 asthmatics jumped me. I know. I know, I should have heard them hiding.
I think of my body as a temple, he says, or at least a relatively well-managed Presbyterian youth centre, in a nice example of understatement. And here we've got two classic pullback and reveals. Let's see if you can second guess them before the punchline comes. Once I beat up the school bully with a baseball bat. Both his arms were completely broken, which was what gave me the courage. My girlfriend and I almost didn't have the second date, because on the first date I didn't open the car door for her. I just swam to the surface. And so on in that vein. But to round off, let's get back to the lighter side and let's get back to wordplay. We started with it. It's permeated the whole of this series, and we're going to finish with it. First up, Stuart Francis, possibly the only Canadian in this series, which is terrible. I do apologise. But very successful is Mr. Francis on British television with his dry, unfazed delivery of lines such as, I used to be in a band called Missing Cat. You probably saw our posters. Or I wrote a book about a transsexual with a speech impediment. It's called Man or Myth. Godbother and Milton Jones is also paranomasiac, which means addicted to wordplay. As in, for example, about a month before he died, my grandfather, we covered his back full of lard. He went downhill very quickly after that. And this one. So I phoned up the spiritual leader of Tibet. He sent me a large goat with a long neck. Turns out I phoned Dalai Lama, which is almost a perfect anagram. So I phoned up the spiritual leader. So I did this, so I did that. Very much a tick of the punster. And the king of the punsters is Tim Vine. There is no attempt at a segue or link in his 3-hour shows full of one-liners. So let's have a couple of vines to finish off.
So I said to this New Zealand bloke, I said, I'm going to a Swedish furniture shop. He said, does it look like IKEA? This song is called Subtraction. Take it away. Banak, that's bang out of order. don't know why I put myself through this. So I went to the binoculars shop. I tell you what, they saw me coming.
Of course, the best and most satisfying way to finish is on a song. But don't worry, I'm not going to do that. I'd simply like to say, as the large lady who always appeared at the end of the Morecambe and Wise shows, even though we hadn't seen her at all previously in the show.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for watching me and my little show here tonight.
Thank you for listening. Keep seeking out sources of comedic amusement. It's good for you.
I only have one Spanish joke to tell you. Boys, girls, transgender, cisgender, ice cream lovers, vampires. I'm trying to get everyone. I've been away. I don't know what's happening. I really don't know. And by the way, if anyone's just wondering, this is first timers night and not young talent. Just in case you wonder what the cut-off point is. Veganism is going to come, whether you like it or not. It'll come gradually. You won't notice. There'll be little inspections of the cheese and milk industry outlets. They'll be frequent, but not long. They'll be called dairy poppins. All my own work, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Yes, all that just to get that joke in. I was into forming a fundamental Islamic rock and roll band in my barrio. Then I heard about a guy who did the rap thing with the call to prayer, and now ISIS wants to torture him and kill him. I thought, oh no, better not do that. It's a shame because I had the name. It was going to be called Jihadi Wadi. Jihadi Wadi. What else can I tell you? I've got from my best friend's an Egyptologist. No, you heard right. He's a psychiatrist in Dublin. Brexit, finish Brexit. Gibraltar for the Irish. Adios.